Watch this.
No heat, a need for new wheels, and teachers seeking out-of-state salaries. Parma schools need some help, and they're asking voters to pay out of pocket again. It's a good bet you probably couldn't name the president of your college. Well, there's a group of Boise State students who would like to have a say in naming their next one. In order to avoid being wiped out by water, the city of American Falls had to take matters into their own hands and put their town on wheels. Well, one woman is making sure the city's story isn't waterlogged again. Well, just 2 years after overwhelmingly passing a supplemental levy, Parma School District is again asking voters for help next month. Well, that one did help pay for co-op programs with other neighboring school districts. This one will be focused on some basic needs, some basic items needed to keep Parma schools operating. The district, which has just about 1,000 students, says it needs $1.3 million to help pay for transportation, air conditioning, and even teacher pay. Aspen Shumpert spoke to the district about what's at stake.
The Parma School District is asking voters to pass a supplemental levy in May.
Anytime there's something put on out there as a levy for taxpayers, property tax, there's always a question is how is it going to impact me?
Interim Superintendent Dale Lane says the proposed levy combines two previous funding mechanisms. First, a $400,000 supplemental levy expiring at the end of this year, and a $250,000 plant facility levy that expired last year.
We're trying to combine those two and came up with the $650,000.
While the supplemental levy rate is increasing from $400,000 to $650,000 per year for 2 years, Lane says property owners may actually see a decrease in their tax rate.
One bond will be paid off September of this year, so that bond will go off of property tax. And then with the state providing some of the school facilities funding that comes into the district, that helps offset property tax. It doesn't really mean more money to the district, but it does help property owners.
The district anticipates a levy rate drop for homeowners from the current rate of $172 per $100,000 to about $161 per $100,000 if the levy passes.
We're trying to let folks know that even with this, that drop, they should see a drop in their property tax, at least on the school side of things.
The money would fund several critical needs, including failing HVAC systems at the middle school gymnasium.
There's 2 large units. One of those is not working, can't get parts for it. The other one is the same age, so if it goes out, there's no heat in that building.
And help replace 2 school buses.
When those come to their life end, trying to replace 4 buses is very difficult. Buses now are $150,000 each, and they take a year to a year and a half once you order those.
The money will also help the district pay for extracurricular activities and competitive teacher pay.
We're just a few miles from Oregon, so sometimes we lose teachers across the border because Oregon pays a little more. So we're trying to stay competitive there. Of course, extracurriculars, that's especially in a small district, very important not only to the students but to parents. So we're trying to maintain all those activities that we have.
If voters reject the levy, Lane says the district would need to look at making some tough decisions.
Realistically, extracurricular isn't going to go away. We want kids to participate. It may look different. Maybe you limit how far students travel. Some districts have gone to pay to play. I know this district has tried to stay away from that to make sure as many kids can participate as possible.
The levy will need a simple majority to pass, 50% plus 1, and voters will see this item on their May 20th ballot.
I know we talk about this all the time when it comes to the legislature, and they tell us we're pumping more money into education than we have before, over 10 years or whatever. But these levies and these bonds we're seeing obviously tell us that it's not enough.
Definitely.
Maybe too little, too late kind of thing.
Yeah.
When it comes to the teacher pay, that's obviously another factor of this. As he mentioned, they're just a few miles from Oregon, just to jump across the river. What other incentives are they kind of using?
Yeah, they're already at a 4-day school week, which is an incentive for teachers, but they're really still trying to be competitive with people in Oregon that are paying higher, so they're really still needing to be competitive there.
Yeah, because that pay raise obviously would help. All right,
Yep.
Thank you very much, Aspen. Well, Parma's petition isn't the only levy being decided next month. There are like 24 school bonds and levies on the upcoming consolidated election ballot. And even those hoping to finance fire districts struggling to keep up with growth. The deadline to vote before May 20th, which is when the election is taking place. You can do that early voting this Friday. That's the deadline, though. If you want to vote early, you can either register or update your registration online at voteidaho.gov. You're going to need a valid Idaho driver's license to do that. If you would rather do it in person, you can stop by the Ada County Elections Office or any county elections office to do that. Well, just about a month ago, Dr. Marlene Tromp announced she was leaving her role as president of Idaho's largest university to become the next president at the University of Vermont. The second shortest stint or tenure of any Boise State president ever. Almost immediately, the question became, who's next? Well, even the Arbiter, the Boise State student paper, asked the question, what do we want to be known for when it comes to our next president? The State Board of Education will offer the final answer to that question, but not before listening to several ideas and how that should go from some of the school's key groups like faculty, administration, donors, alumni, and arguably the most impacted group, or at least the largest, the students, several of which got together today to talk about what is important to them, what they would like to see in a new leader. Joe Paris asked them some of those same questions.
It's the season of finality on the campus of Idaho's largest university. More than 27,000 students are putting the final touches on the academic year. Tests to take, decisions to be made.
We're in a time right now, it's tricky. Students are prepping for finals. I have a couple finals this week and then going into next week.
With the departure of University President Dr. Marlene Tromp, Boise State Student Body President Isaac Celadon is also tasked with capturing the students' voice in finding the next leader.
What's your priorities? What are your pain points? What leadership traits do you want to see in a president? What worked well, what didn't work well?
The State Board of Education makes the final decision, but they are listening to what the student body believes in, led by a special committee.
It's our investment, so we're investing in this leader to continue on our academics, extracurriculars, research opportunities, and post-grad opportunities.
It's been great. I love hearing, students that care about the next president come and give their feedback.
Ty Jordan is one of those student listeners, helping to lead a series of discussions with his peers.
Enthusiasm. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that we've heard is they want a president that's engaged in what the students are doing, whether it be sports, clubs, they like a president that's going to be there and show up.
Getting to hear about the exact things that come on an application for this type of role was super enlightening.
Sydney Leach works with Isaac and Ty from the perspective of a student athlete. She's a member of the Boise State gymnastics team. And this team has taken feedback during interactive listening sessions.
Someone on Monday said that they want someone who embodies everything that a Bronco is, so blue collar, works hard, willing to see what's next, but also being in the moment. Someone who embraces the difficulties, the challenges, the diversity that comes with Boise State, and being able to listen to all different types of students.
I think a lot of students are starting to strategize what are finance going to look like. Inflation's going up. Tuition is going up across the entire state, not just here at Boise State. They want this individual to come in knowing that here's the reality we're in, here's the struggles we're facing just from the student side. The university has its own struggles with other stakeholders, but from the student side is here's our struggles, here's what's maintaining the same, is what we're currently doing enough?
Gathering feedback and being able to listen to every student and their unique experience and why they value certain things in a leader has been great.
I think it's a once in a lifetime experience. You're in college for 4 years, the chance that we're bringing in a new president during my time here is obviously going to be something scary, but I think that with all the resources we have and all the people that are willing to help the students, I think it's going to be a great historic moment for us all, and they're going to choose someone great.
So faculty, athletics, alumni, admin are amongst the groups that have also had their own series of listening sessions. They will all really wrap up over the next week. The students, though, really wanted me to get this out there. Tomorrow they have their big listening session for students, 5 to 7:30 p.m. in the Jordan Ballroom. Brian, one of the pieces of feedback I did get from the student listeners is they wish that their peers would give some more feedback. They were hoping to get some more of a look. I mean, there's 27,000 students there, and it is a very busy time of year. here. But I like the way that Sydney put it. I mean, this is a very interesting moment in time. University presidents usually stick around for a while, so this group has a unique opportunity.
Yeah, just 6 years so far for, or I should say, just for Marlene Trump, Dr. Trump. The question I was wondering, Isaac mentioned the other stakeholders that are involved in this university. One of the things I'm sure that may come up, probably will come up, was the ability to navigate the legislature when it comes to standing up for what the students and the school wants. Yeah, it's difficult, and we understand that, you know, there are different priorities in terms of each individual student and what we see at the state legislature. For example, you have a situation in the budgeting committee where we saw, you know, we saw and we heard lawmakers say, okay, well, Boise State's changing, for example, their DEI practices, but we still had lawmakers that said, well, we need to send a message to, you know, to tune of $2 million coming out of their budget. So whoever the next president is going to have to be able to step into both of these worlds, and that is very difficult. One of the students I spoke with today on campus says they understand, like, you can't make everyone happy, and at the same time, when you're making compromises and you make no one happy, like, how do you weigh that? Yep. All right. Thank you very much, Joe. Sink or swim? That was the choice given to the city of American Falls a century ago. Well, its residents chose neither, but rather just move out of the way of the water sure to swamp them in the name of progress. So what did it take to uproot a whole town? One woman actually wrote a book about it. How about you take this time to write something to us? Not a book, though. In fact, if you could keep it to a few short sentences, that would be great. Text us 208-321-5614. Talk to us about what we've talked about today or what we should talk about tomorrow. Oh, and don't forget your name and the hashtag #the208. Keep it clean and clever, and we might have a chance of sharing it at the end of the show.
It's a small town, but it was a big deal.
You know, there's a lot of southern Idaho cities which wouldn't exist if it weren't for water, or at least access to it, and some who almost didn't exist because of, well, too much of it, like Twin Falls. There's another town along the Snake River that almost suffered a similar fate, waterlogged, if it weren't for the willingness of its residents to be so mobile. A century ago, American Falls was moved not once, but twice. Both were because, well, it was about keeping up with the times, but the second reason, well, that was more about keeping out of the way, as a dam built to power Power County and beyond would highlight how deeply rooted the residents, well, they wanted to remain there.
To know the history.
Moved here from England at the end of 2010.
You need to know the author who wrote it.
I found pioneer history so interesting.
Celia Clausen was curious about how the area came to be.
I started to ask some of the older customers, how did your family come here? What was it like here before? And they didn't know.
While it seemed building a dam was easier than finding someone to document its history, after 10 years, the town finally found someone to do it.
10 months of all my spare time and time that wasn't so spare. I took it on and traveled back in time.
Back in time to the 1800s, where the first version of American Falls was built on the west side of the Snake River.
A few people had kind of set up a shack here and there, but when the railroad came, That's when it really sprang into something more like a frontier town.
The Oregon Short Line Railway arrived in the 1880s, but soon people realized there wasn't much growth on the west side, and they would have to cross the river by walking on the railroad bridge.
So they moved the train depot over to the east side, and what little there was of the town moved with it. So that was the first time American Falls moved.
And it wouldn't be the last. By 1908,
people started saying this is going to be the site of a big reservoir. And meanwhile, American Falls kept growing. They were really excited about the thought of having a dam, but they didn't really think that through, that would flood their town.
the town on the riverside became quite established. There were grand hotels, big storefronts. It's where D11 banks began, and even Safeway, which was called Skaggs at the time, where the family would buy lots straight from the train and sell it for cheaper. American Falls was booming.
Everybody had heard of it. The slogan was, keep your eye on American Falls. We were in newspapers in New York, in Chicago, in the really big cities. American Falls was on everybody's lips.
But all of it had to be moved by the end of 1925. People had a choice, have their homes and businesses moved on wheels, or sell it to the government.
Overall, they didn't really have much choice because it would just be flooded if they stayed there.
Those that moved their buildings didn't have the easiest time, especially the Gardner Hotel.
It got stuck. Multiple moving outfits broke.
It was the largest government relocation project of its time, and more than 300 structures were moved or rebuilt. By April 1926, the Bureau of Reclamation completed the 94-foot-high dam 60 days ahead of schedule.
Most of all, people were excited. They thought that they had a brand new start with this new town, that it was going to be a huge city.
While it stayed a small town, its history is as solid as the concrete, as deep as it is tall, on the Oneida Milling Grain Elevator, still sitting in the reservoir today, a reminder of the town's past. And in September, as the level of water in the reservoir drops,
the foundations of the town emerge. If you look at enough pictures and you walk down there, it's almost like you can see the old-fashioned people walking around, the old buildings still there.
Around town, some of the old buildings still stand. And the new ones, like Morningwood Coffee and the Dam Pizza Place, care about the dam legacy. The school mascot? It's even a beaver. Also embracing the history is Kay Bailey Terry, who lives in one of the oldest homes in American Falls.
It goes back to when my parents bought it from the Johnson family. And this picture I'm holding shows a picture of Mrs. Johnson and her husband, Mr. Johnson, who ran the power plant.
She says they've made very little changes to the home and hopes the community, like herself, keeps preserving the past so people have a chance to reflect on how far the town has come.
When you're young, you're so busy trying to think about now that you don't really take the time to step back, and we need to step back so we can appreciate what we have today.
And while the dam still holds strong, preserving the town's history is getting harder. The town's museum is in a building where the foundation is crumbling.
One problem. Our building has been got a problem. It's falling apart. So our museum items are still here, but we're hoping the building's going to hold until we can get all the items in another place.
Clausen, Hubbs, and Bailey Terry are all on the museum board. They, along with commissioners, are working to find a space, especially as they plan to throw a big 100-year celebration on American Falls Day, August 2nd. The theme's called A Town on the Move. Pretty fitting, right? And they say it would be nice to be able to have a place for people to go learn about the history. And I have to admit my bias here.
Yeah.
I love this town.
I bet.
But I grew up here.
Exactly.
So.
And you're even in this big old book.
Yeah, we got some Funks. We even have some Isaacs, which are both sides of my family. This is the book she created, 600 pages.
Wow.
And she's trying to make another one just for the centennial. I believe it's supposed to be a little bit slimmer.
I was going to say, that's a big book for a small town.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so the museum, it's crumbling. What's causing that?
So
is this age?
It's just age. So
okay.
This building used to be the old hospital.
Okay.
They actually moved the bricks from the reservoir to where it's at now. It's just gone through a couple different things, the community center, the hospital at the time, but now it's the museum. So It's moldy and the foundation's
moldy, so some
apart.
water also causing some problems there, apparently.
Yeah,
all right.
So financials, that's the next step.
All right, thank you very much, Hunter. That was interesting. with our water theme here. Too much water caused the closure of a major Idaho highway, which has left several businesses needing access to financial help. And not enough water in a major Idaho river has left surfers and kayakers limited to access to riding waves. Jude Binkley will sort it all out in today's 411.
The Camden County Prosecuting Attorney's Office says they found the officer involved in a shooting in Twin Falls County last year was justified and no charges will be filed. On December 19th, Twin Falls deputies were dispatched to a home near Filer in response to a 911 call regarding an aggravated battery with a weapon. After arriving, a deputy fired his gun, hitting the suspect and a juvenile male who was pronounced dead on scene after life-saving efforts were unsuccessful. 2 victims from the battery were taken to a hospital, one of them with serious stab wounds. There's some relief coming for Idaho businesses and nonprofits hit by the Highway 95 closure. The U.S. Small Business Administration just approved low-interest disaster loans to help cover economic losses. This comes after a request from Governor Brad Little earlier this month. The loans can help with payroll, bills, and other working capital needs, even if there wasn't any physical damage. Applications are now open. Heads up, river surfers and kayakers, flows are dropping from 2,000 to 1,500 cubic feet per second, and crews are adjusting the features along the way. It might take a little time to get everything riding just right. Plus, Wave Shaper 2 isn't fully operational yet. It's undergoing maintenance until May 7th, so if things feel a little off out there, that's why. Stay tuned, we'll keep you posted as conditions change. And that's the 411 from the 208. I'm Jude Binkley.
Active weather is coming in later this week, but we saw some of it pick up already in certain parts of Idaho, like the Central Mountains, even along the Idaho-Nevada border down there, some showers, even some lightning strikes happening down near the Magic Valley along the border there. Now, here's a live look at Stanley outside. They haven't been seeing too many showers. You can see it's blue, clear skies. Some clouds here, but those clouds are actually cumulus clouds, and because they're big and fluffy like that, that's a little bit of an indication that our atmosphere is unstable right now as we head into later on this week with those changes on the way. 65 right now, very cloudy over the Boise Mountains, as you can see. Winds died down a little bit. They were closer to 15 miles per hour earlier. Now they're around 10, so they're hopefully dying down into this evening. Temperatures are going to warm in the next few days. Clouds and moisture move in Friday, and then that's going to bring us a very unsettled weather weekend. Here's a look at the 7-day forecast. Hopefully moving into the low to mid 70s by Friday and Saturday, but then we'll be cooling down by Sunday.
All right, a couple of comments here to wind up our Wednesday. This one from Jack in Boise says, how sad that rural school districts have to try to pass levies when the people have the power to properly fund schools, referring to the legislature. They just need to vote out the party that has had total control for 35 years. Again, we talked about this and the funding that's going into it, but as we know, a Supreme Court decision saying Idaho has not funded schools properly for like decades. Sure, the students' wish and the choice of the next president will not be taken in consideration. They're going to choose someone that follows Trump's requirements, although the state board, legislature, not really connected. We'll see you tomorrow.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus